Howdy folks! This book review is a little bit unique because the book is over 120 years old. The title is Mechanical Drawing by N. Hawkins. And this actually has the complete title of Hawkins Self Help for Home Study. I've kind of taken an interest in drawing lately and looked at some books on drawing, sketching, illustration, things like that, and kind of stumbled upon some mechanical drawing. And I chose this book because it was, for one, it was old. I didn't get into any fancy modern techniques. And two, it was a self-help book for home study. So that's exactly what I would be doing. The book review I'm going to divide up into two parts. One is the actual physical book itself. This was actually made back when books were really valued and meant to last and be a long-time reference. And the second part will be on the content itself. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. This book that I bought was actually in kind of rough shape and needed a little bit of TLC. I had to spray it down and wipe it off, but it cleaned up pretty nice. The things that you notice about the book is it has this nice textured cloth covering to it, which is really nice. And the cover itself is quite substantial. It's very thick. What kind of brings out to your eye is the stamping here. This is actually embossed with a gold colored foil with the cover. It looks beautiful. It also has an embossed border around here. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it's a nice touch. And also it has the gold embossing with a nice font here on the binding too. That's nice. Not only is it have the gold on the binding and the cover, but it's actually gilded on the edges very nicely, and all edges too. I have a cheap set of encyclopedias that they gilded the top so it looks good while it's sitting on a shelf, but other than that they didn't bother with the rest of it. So really an outstanding book, and the binding is nice. If you open it up, it lays flat very nicely. It's got a nice binding. It looks like the header here might have been red at some point, but it looks like it faded. But the book is actually black and white with the exception of a red border because they didn't do much color back then. But the red really pulls out and it gives it a little bit of, pizzazz to it. It has a really nice look to it. So I thought that was a really fine touch. I also like the off-white paper. It could be just because it's old, but I think it's a bit of an off-white, which is kind of pleasing to the eye. Now the other two things that I like about the book are the illustrations. The illustrations are nice. I'm not talking about the mechanical drawings, but just the illustrations throughout are just kind of neat. They're all hand done and works of art in themselves. He does a lot of this black, dark background, which you don't see too much nowadays. And actually some of the print is even negative as a white here throughout the book. You'll probably see that at some point. I kind of like these advertisements. This is the book itself, and here's some other books that the publisher offers. And there's some interesting fonts here. And he uses some nice fonts throughout the book, but he also uses some kind of special fonts throughout, which are really kind of neat to see, that you don't really see nowadays. So the physical part of a book is just a beautiful book. Very nice, very pleasing to the eye, and you can tell it's from an era where they really valued a physical hardbound copy of the book. As far as the content of the book, the table of contents has 26 chapters or thereabouts, and there's kind of multiple things within a chapter, and I'm not going to go over them all. I am going to flip through a couple things. It's kind of interesting. The first thing he has you do is chalkboard work with a piece of chalk, being able to express yourself and to make legible drawings just freehand. In fact, the next section from there is actually freehand drawing. He has you do a lot of practicing of drawing lines and curves, which sounds kind of lame, but it actually was good practice. At that point, he has you copy a lot of these kind of mechanical drawings freehand, And it gets kind of contradictory because he says, well, double check some of your lengths with a piece of paper that you make 2 marks on the drawing and transfer it over. So instead of kind of having a combination sort of approach, I did one copy freehand and one with instruments and rulers. So you can see, I'm a little off in my dimensions, and my lines are all straight because I'm not using a straight edge. What else do we have? So I did a bunch of those, and actually that was kind of good practice. Good for kind of using the eye to kind of judge sizes and dimensions and whatnot. From there, he goes to geometric drawing, and I kind of thought this was a little bit not useful because it shows you how to draw perpendiculars to a line, how to bisect a line, things that you think you don't really need if you're using instruments, right angles and triangles and things like that. But actually, after I was doing some drawing, I used a lot of these techniques. And there were things like how to bisect an angle, how to draw 2 parallel lines, how to draw these kind of multi-sided shapes and whatnot, not using anything but a compass and a straight edge. From there he goes to instruments and materials. He actually outlines a whole bunch of different items here that you can use in different types of compasses and stuff like that. But I'll show you exactly what I used and what did fine for me. Here are the drawing materials that I used. I actually had a piece of plywood that was nice and flat, a fine finish. Made myself a little T-square, and he recommends a larger board, but the largest I'm ever going to do, or mostly will do, is 8.5 by 11. I can fit an 11 by 17 on here, but anyways, that just worked fine. I also had some old beat up triangles, 60, 30 degree, and a 45 degree. Probably should get new ones. A ruler, a couple of templates, a ellipse template and a circle template. Something that had some kind of French curves on there to draw some irregular shapes or angles. And actual drawing pieces. I started with this really junky compass, and they're totally a waste of time. It's hard to get exactly what you want, and they flex and they actually move. So I got another cheap compass, but it's much better. It's got a screw, so you can actually dial it in and tune it. So I would highly recommend one like this. And this one is kind of neat too, because it's got 2 points that you can use it as a divider. One side, this is actually a dip pen nib, so you can use it as a dip pen for inking circles. And the other end is has the pencil lead in it. Another good thing to have is I have this small brush, and that's great to get pieces of graphite and eraser off of your paper. I just used wood pencils. I had a hard lead and a soft lead, and a couple pens. I just went through my pen supply and see what seemed to work best for inking a drawing. An eraser stick and eraser, an eraser shield, which kind of helps to fine-tune what you're going to erase, and a sharpener. And so that's really all I needed. From there he goes to mechanical drawing and gives a lot of examples of mechanical drawing, and things kind of overlap here because he sort of just covers kind of pencil drawing, then inking later, and then doing projections later. But these I actually inked in rather than just pencil. And here's some of the projection sort of lines, drawings. And he talks a little bit about lettering and inking. Like I showed you, I did ink some of those drawings already. The lettering he doesn't really cover much as far as how to lay them out or anything like that, or proper spacing. He just kind of gives you a couple different fonts that are appropriate. He has a big section on gearing and design, which I skip because I'm not going to be drawing gears or really a lot of machine equipment. But he does cover a lot of that. And a lot of mishmash of little stuff, you know, drawings for the patent office. He has a section on tips, which are actually quite helpful. You probably should have given those earlier. And so things like that. You know, here's the tips and points. And then he talks about perspective and different perspectives and views where, you know, that's kind of a perspective, and these are actually some different views with that you can take dimensions off of. From there, he ends it with a section on tables and the index with information on anything from fraction to decimal equivalents and wire gauges and pipe sizes and stuff like that. Well, that's it. I would rate this book physically an A+. It's just outstanding with the cloth cover, the gold gilding, the edges, the fonts, and the illustrations are just spectacular, and the red borders and things like that. As far as content, I'd rate it a B. It had a lot of drawings to copy, but it didn't have a lot of instruction on how to do it or how to get started. But still, once you work through it, you kind of work through it and figured it out. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have a chance, pick up the book. Or actually, it's online too. There's free PDF floating out there in a couple different places. I actually started with the PDF, but I found it too difficult to copy drawings off of a screen, so I got the physical book, and actually I was glad I did. Well, thank you for looking, and happy drawing to you.